Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about finding the exercise that gives you the best carryover to one of your main lifts or lifts that you care about. And I want to be clear, I should probably state this in more and more videos because I get a lot of novice lifters who are like, oh, so how do I apply this to me? You know, and they bench press 155 for 5 reps. Like, you don't need to apply this to you. You don't need to know any of this yet. You need to follow a proven novice program, or you need to hire a coach to write you custom programming. You're not ready for any of this. Just stick to a proper program. This is, for more advanced lifters, people who have 3, 4, 5 years of relatively hard training under their belt. People who exhausted their novice linear progression 2 years ago. Right? So any of these novice programs you guys are asking about, like, you finished that 2, 3, 4 years ago and completely maxed it all out, and you've continued to train hard. So one of the things that is worth noting is that, we're all going to have exercises that are our primary lifts. If you don't, then your training has no direction. It probably has no structure. That's probably part of the reason you have a problem. So you need to backtrack there. In my case, I'll call my primary lifts, let's call them squat, bench, deadlift, and dumbbell row. Okay, and I'm just going to have in this video bench press, deadlift, and dumbbell row. All right. In the case of those, I've always find, and I think you will too, that when you experiment with certain lifts, or you look at where you're weakest on these exercises, all right, you find the muscles or the part of the movement pattern where you're weakest. Because if you have, 3, 4, 5 basic lifts that are your core foundational lifts, if you get better at those, you get bigger and stronger. Okay? So a lot of your training will be geared towards what can I do to get better at those? What else can I add to improve at those? And you need to kind of find your weak links and all those things. In my case, at the time I'm making this video, because this can change over the years, I find that the lifts that give me direct carryover, like for my bench press, my normal paused competition type bench, I find that the incline bench, and in this case like a 45 degree, when I get stronger at the incline bench, I'm able to set PRs on my flat bench, even if it's rep PRs, right? I didn't know he's talking about our 1 rep max. But if your 5 rep max turns into an 8 rep max, then your 1 rep max goes up, doesn't it? But, for guys who are just trying to get real big and strong, well, I mean, getting stronger at your 5 rep maxes on your primary lifts is a good idea. So in my case, I find that the incline bench has very, very serious carryover. So at the moment, I'm re-added incline bench back in, and you guys can see there I'm only doing 6 reps with a 225 with a pause. So I'm not crazy strong. But I also have slightly regressed on my bench press. And is it a coincidence? Possibly not. So I'm doing those there. And in my case, it's because of where I stick. I tend to stick right in the middle on my bench press. Okay? I stick right in the middle. And oftentimes I feel, pectoral, oftentimes upper chest at times. Seems to get really fatigued when I'm struggling on a bench press, or if I just don't feel strong that day. That area really hurts, it's fatigued, I can look where I slow at, and the incline bench is really good for that. And it's good for that transition point in my case. Right where I tend to transition is it looks, the bar path starts to more resemble the incline. Right? So for me, when I start struggling and it gets heavy, the bar shifts towards my face really early on, midway through the rep. Okay? All right, incline can help with that. Triceps can help with that too. But I'm also doing tricep work. So I've got incline in there to help with that. With my deadlifts, I find that if my grip is on point, again, I do a lot of grip work. Some of these exercises improve grip that you're seeing here. On my deadlift, I find my hamstrings are oftentimes my limiting factor. Okay, they're often my limiting factor. All right, I find the glute ham raise gives me the best hamstring stimulation, so much so that after I do glute ham raises, if I'm not careful, I get intense cramps later that day. even if I only do 1 or 2 really hard sets. Sometimes it will induce severe cramping in my hamstrings. That's how hard they hit my hamstrings for me personally in the way that I perform them. Now, of course, I'll occasionally have someone who chimes in and says, you're doing those wrong. And I'm like, well, you guys have seen me deadlift well up into the 600s at age 46. Hamstrings limit my deadlifts, and that exercise makes my hamstrings literally cramp. It hits them so hard that they can have intense cramps that will cripple me, and I cannot even stand. So how am I doing them wrong? If it has that intense of a response in the muscle, I think I'm doing them perfect. Okay, I digress. The way that I perform these has a very direct carryover to my deadlift. Okay, and it's very apparent, very noticeable. Now, I also find that good mornings carry over to my deadlift very effectively too. I could go either direction. I could say either one of those lifts. But in this case, I'm demonstrating glute ham raise. That's my lift. All right, one-arm dumbbell rows. Funny enough, people always note my back development is ridiculous, and my arms are not quite as well developed. I tend to, when I start to reach failure at times on a dumbbell row, sometimes my biceps feel like they're limiting it, at times. Therefore, I find that a multi-joint bicep exercise like the power curl, when I get stronger at it sometimes, I get a little stronger at my dumbbell rows. Okay? And it's because my back is well developed enough, my back grows from almost anything that I do, that sometimes literally biceps or grip can limit my ability to row. Because my back just grows. It will outpace everything else. So for me, the added bicep work helps. And in the case of a movement like this, it is a power movement, right? It's subjecting the biceps to a really heavy eccentric load because you're using a little bit of cheat to bring it up, but then the biceps have to handle that heavy eccentric load. What happens? Isn't that similar to the sort of loading they take on the dumbbell row and get fatigued on? Yeah, it's somewhat similar. Plus, it has some upper back, right? The power curl like that does work traps, upper back, things like that. I personally find a really good synergy there, okay? I find that there is, for me, a little bit of overlap. So the power curls are one of the movements that, at least at the moment, I feel like improve my dumbbell rows. And if my dumbbell rows improve, you know, my grip, my biceps, mainly my back, lats and traps, they all get bigger, okay? So this is examples of what I'm talking about. Because as you start to get more advanced, you can't just hammer the big lift. You'll get overuse. You'll get all sorts of fatigue. You've got to work other things. You'll end up bigger. You'll end up stronger. And you'll end up with fewer injuries. Okay? Isn't that what we want? Isn't that what most of us want from our training? To be bigger, to be stronger, and to have less injuries. That's it.